Welcome to Building Healthy Relationships, the 4 Habits podcast, helping you enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Andrea and John Taylor Cummings, recognized authorities on the subjects of improving work relationships and cultures, as well as couple and home relationships.
Hello and a warm welcome to all our guests tuning in from around the world, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're so delighted that you're joining us for this session. We are exceptionally delighted to have Dr. Gabor Mihalec with us all the way from Hungary. Hello, Gabor. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me. I'm so delighted to be here.
Well, we've been looking forward to this session for a long time.
Absolutely.
So we're really keen to get stuck into our conversation. But before we do, we need to give you your proper introduction so everybody on the call can understand the caliber of person that they'll be hearing from. So, John.
That we do. We have, as Andrew said, it has to be the proper introduction. Gabor was very highly recommended to us, and you will see why very shortly. Yeah. So, Dr. Gabor Mihalec is one of Hungary's most renowned couple therapists, fluent in 3 languages. He conducts relationship therapy sessions and delivers lectures and training both in Hungary and internationally throughout the year. His best-selling relationship books, and I think he said 15 books or something like that he's written. There's a long list. Have been translated into 9 languages with 3 titles available in English. Passionate about understanding the dynamics of human relationships, he constantly explores ways to enhance them, turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones. He's been happily married to Dora for 29 years, and they have 2 adult children who I'm sure, like us, they keep them real. That's what the children will do for you. And his hobbies include traveling and bonsai. I wish I wanted to pick up on bonsai another time. I've tried many times with bonsai. I just don't have any success with it. But I do love bonsai. Love bonsai trees.
So, Gabor, we have to start with the passion. Where did this passion and interest in relationships, couple relationships in particular, come from? And what's driving you? What's the change that you want to see?
Wow, that's a very good question, which leads me back some 27 years or so. I haven't started as a couple therapist. I actually never had the idea to become one. I started as a pastor. I was a young pastor, very engaged in my ministry, and I was a young husband as well at the same time. And that was the time as we started our family. Our son was just born. I was at the age of 23, and I thought that if I do my very best for my ministry, God will take care of the rest.
Yep.
The rest, I mean marriage, family, and all these kinds of stuff. But then my wife started to give me some signals that not everything is that good as it seems to be. And I ignored those signals. I feel very bad about this afterwards, but I haven't realized how important it is to put everything aside, even the most holy ministry in the world, to focus on my family, on my marriage relationship. And after giving some signals, my wife started to develop really heavy symptoms. So these signals became to symptoms, which meant that she started losing weight. From 60 kilos, she went down to 38 kilos within 3 months. And
my goodness. Yeah.
I almost saw her dying in front of me. And that was a real shock. Of course, my first reaction was anger. God, this was not our deal.
That's right.
I thought our deal was that I sacrifice myself on the altar of ministry, and you will take care of the rest. But I had to realize that God never signed that contract. He wanted to give me a lesson.
Yeah.
Even in pastoral ministry, my most important field of ministry is my family. And then we went to therapy ourselves. We needed help.
Okay.
It was not enough just to keep calm and wait that something will change from itself. We needed help. And as we we learn to regain our power over the dynamics of our family, of our relationship. The next reaction for me was anger. Why nobody warned us before the tragedy happened?
Yeah.
Why nobody told us that this is something natural? This is something that most couples are likely to experience. And then this anger turned to passion. I said to myself at the end of a successful process that if nobody is there who will warn us, who will tell us before things happen, I will be the one.
Wow.
That was the starting point, how I started to study after my studies in theology. I studied family therapy. I made my PhD in couples therapy and pastoral psychology. And I wanted to dig really deep into this area to be able to help others not to step into the same mistakes that we experienced.
God, we're going to say the same thing.
That story mirrors our experience so much, so closely, where we went through the pain of just firstly starting out the relationship great, and then all of a sudden not knowing each other anymore. Who is this person? Why are you behaving like this? What are you doing? When we started a business together, the wheels, as we say, the wheels came off very quickly. And but once we came across some material and found a way to work together, we said, why did nobody share this stuff with us? You know, it's not rocket science. Why did nobody share this stuff with us? And what can we do? As you say, ignited the fire in us to be able to share it with other people as well. So many parallels.
But there's so many powerful things you said just in sharing your story, because this idea that when you have such a powerful vocation, you know, as a pastor, or some people, whatever they believe their calling to be, we can be so passionate about that we think that's the thing we should give focus to. But then you said your learning was that your primary mission field, the first place that you needed to show up and show up well, was your family.
Exactly.
And then you had the courage to go to therapy as well, which, you know, to understand it was so important and so in need of help that you went to therapy. How did you get to the point of realizing that your family must come first? And how do you counsel others like pastors to understand that your first place of showing up well, your first ministry is to your family? How do you do that?
This was a real paradigm shift for me. The first paradigm was, as mentioned, I had to focus all my energy to my ministry. And if I lose my family, meanwhile, I lose everything else.
Yeah.
It will take away my authenticity as a pastor. How can I talk to others while my family is in ruins?
Yeah.
So I had to refocus completely. And nobody taught this to me at my theological studies. They taught me how to read the original biblical text in Greek and Hebrew language, but they didn't taught me how I put my family on the first place. So I needed to learn it from scratch.
Yeah.
And it was a real benefit for the whole family, because for the first time in our lives, we were intentional.
Yeah.
Not just driving in the way how all the previous generations did, but we took the steering wheel in our hand. We started leading our own lives.
And I love that word intentional, because that's the word we use, that you can't expect great things to just happen by default. I think the default tendency of all of life is to chaos. If you want good stuff to come, like from a garden, you have to be intentional about planting and tending. Otherwise, all you'll get is weeds. You talk about 7 steps to build marriage integrity or marital integrity in a culture of infidelity. And the first step you talk about is defining who you are, or defining the relationship. And I'd love to pick up on that point, to talk about that a bit, because we're in a world where some people are choosing to get married, but some people are intentionally choosing not to be married and going in a couple relationship, but not necessarily having the definition of who they are, and then that leads to problems. So help us understand that some more. What do you mean about define your relationship?
That's such a good question. The last 10, 15 years, I was following about 500 couples who experienced an extramarital relationship, and I saw the deepness, the depth of the pain that they are going through. And the first few couples, everything was new for me. And I was taking my notes, and I saw that before it happened, there was a phenomena that I wrote down, then another one. Like there are stages or stations couples go through. At the 20th time, I already said, oh, hang on, let me guess what comes next.
Wow.
And it was the same thing.
Wow.
Couples are going through the same stations. And my idea was, if something is so explainable, understandable, then this must be also preventable. If something is so predictable, then it is also preventable.
Absolutely.
And so I turned these stations into steps how to prevent infidelity from happening at a stage when it doesn't even come to your mind. And the first thing was to define the relationship. Who are we to each other? And what do we expect from each other? I saw that most of the couples never talk about this. They take it for granted.
Yeah.
We are in this relationship, and probably it means for the other just the same as it means for me, without having talked about it, not even once. There was that very kind couple. They were at the beginning of their 40s, and I had such a mixed feeling as I was talking to them. In one of the sentences, they were like a very committed couple, very strongly committed to each other, like they are for 30 years together at least. And in the other sentence, I had the impression that they just met now on the street and they came for a couple therapy, a first date. And I expressed my mixed feeling, and I said to them, can you describe to me, who are you to each other? What is the definition of your relationship? And the reaction was very strange. She looked at him like she was telling with her eyes, you brought me here, do something, tell something. He looked back at her with the eyes like, it's a relationship thing. That's for women. Say you something, save me out of the situation. So they were ping-ponging with each other with their eyes. And after a minute or so, he started cleaning his throat like, how should I put it in words? We live in a kind of undefined relationship. And I think at that point, this was the very best definition he could give. They were together for years, but they never expressed what are the rules of the game they are playing with each other.
Yeah.
And not even if we are a married couple, it is self-explanatory that we understand the same thing. There are married couples who think that it is completely okay to be married and once in a while date another person. Because everybody needs some fresh air, some new insights into life.
Is that what they're calling it?
I don't end up in the bed of the other, that's okay. Many think. But the other part never signed that contract.
Yeah.
And they make decisions which the other had no influence on. And this is simply not fair.
Yeah. I mean, that is a big part of what we talk about in, the 4 habits that we share about of all successful relationships. That's a big part of habit number 3, which is ask, don't assume. Because the challenge so many of us have is, well, it's fine by me. I assume it's fine by you. Let's just carry on that basis. But unless you've had that conversation about some of these deep-seated values that you hold, expectations that you carry, the other person doesn't necessarily, as you said, they haven't signed that contract.
Exactly.
Why are you assuming that they will do that? There's just so much in there. So of those steps, and as you say, you've seen them play out over the 7 years, not over 7 years, over the 7 steps people go through those
Yes.
stages. It's really interesting to see that, and to hear you unpack a bit more of those. So what comes next after they've defined the relationship? What would be the second thing that you look out for?
Yes, I described all this in my book, No More Games, and there are some other steps that we can do in order to make our relationship as much as possible affair-proof. For example, to not put the past aside, but put it on its right place.
Mm-hmm.
We all carry our backpacks. That's common sense. Everybody knows about it. But what does it mean when it comes to love affairs? What was the experience of the previous generations? Maybe if I look at my family tree, there is something that comes back over and over again as a problem-solving mechanism. And without ever thinking about it, it will be my automatic reaction as well when things get tough.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to that couple. They never realized that his automatic coping mechanism was to look around to get some support from other women. And where does it come from? And the first time in his life he could realize that that was the same thing in his father's marriage.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And he could recall the memories as a teenager, how he was comforting his crying mom because his father is at the moment dating some other women, and he's involved in something because of a financial crisis the family get into. But then he started asking the other relatives how it was in the even previous generation. It came out the grandfather
Same thing.
did the same thing. His father did the same thing. So we all have our past without taking it into the intentional level, as you highlighted very well, Andrea. And we need to be intentional on that. If this is a sensitive area in my life, then I have to take measures against it. I have to protect the boundaries of our relationship. And this is a next step. There are boundaries that need to be protected. They will not protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do something. And this leads me to a discovery at a very young, very early stage of our relationship with my wife, of our marriage. We were married for 2 months, and I had this strange feeling that there are so many things in my wallet. I have to clean my wallet. There were some bills from groceries and every stuff that I don't need to carry there. And I have put everything on the table to decide what should I put back, what should I leave out. And out of a hidden compartment of my wallet, a condom appeared. A condom I have put in years earlier, before I met my wife even, just for the case.
Mm-hmm.
I never know.
Yeah.
Just
And
in
I
case.
was there, married for 2 months, holding the condom in my hand and having the dilemma in my mind. What should I do with it? Should I put it back in my wallet just for the case? You can never know.
And be prepared.
Be prepared. Or should I throw it out?
Yeah.
I think my commitment to my wife and to my marriage didn't happen on the day of my wedding. It happened on that Wednesday afternoon.
Wow.
When I made the decision, I have to take responsibility for myself. If I put it back into my wallet, I will always leave the door open. You can never know what happens. Be prepared. But I am in charge. It's my decision. Unless somebody comes and rapes me, which is not hopefully a thing that will happen. But it's my decision and I have to take responsibility. There is a limit that I will not cross. There is a boundary I have to protect. And a very similar boundary that I discovered among those couples who experienced an affair is the car of the husband.
Oh, really? Do
Really?
tell.
It's so interesting for me. In nearly all of the stories I have witnessed, the car of the husband played a role. Because this is kind of an intimate sphere that belongs to the man. And if he invites another woman there, that's his territory.
Right.
And just by entering into this territory, many women show kind of an openness.
Hmm.
I am open to whatever happens here. And there are lots of men who misuse this openness.
Hmm.
So, at least for my culture where I live, here in the middle of Europe in Hungary, I formulated to myself the most erotic body part of a man is his car.
No wonder lots of money gets spent on buying the most impressive car.
Well, I was going to be naughty and take it to the next level. Is it the whole car or is it the gear stick? But no, maybe we don't need to go into that.
Let's not get into such details.
No, wow. So wow, just being within the confines of the car, as you say, puts the woman in a vulnerable position, but also puts the man in a position of, this is my territory, a bit of power.
Yeah.
Wow.
So much to unpack in this, and so much wisdom. And that word intentional keeps coming up again and again. Be intentional about what you mean in this relationship, how the commitment that you are making, especially around loyalty, and also be intentional about protecting the boundaries, because they'll always be tested or threatened in one way or another. How are you going to protect those boundaries? That's so good.
Yeah, and I know, and I know the more recent work that you've done, and I'm keen to come on to that, has been around those testing of boundaries, testing of relationships in general through the challenges that we've had over the past few years now with the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. And I know you did a lot of work looking at relationships going through that. Tell us, what are some of the findings that you had coming out of that?
Well, this was such an interesting journey for me individually as well. I don't know how you experienced the whole time of the pandemic. For me, it was a real shock. I had my schedule full of appointments for couples therapy. And of course, I love to do couples therapy in person, firstly, not online. I had my schedule full of presentations, trainings, and everything was canceled from one day to the other. And I was sitting there, okay, what should I do now with all this free time? And my whole thinking went just in circles. So it's a crisis. What to do now? What to do now? I want to contribute somehow to the resolution of this whole crisis. And I don't know anything about viruses, about medication. So I will not be the one probably who will find a cure against the virus. But I know something about relationships. So I started an everyday live video on my Facebook channel to give some help for those couples who got trapped in their own homes, to survive it somehow and not to kill each other. And I started every single evening a half an hour program called Couple Minutes, and it turned out that it went consecutively for 150 evenings.
Oh, wow.
It was such a huge work, but this was my way of protecting myself, talking about the same ideas. And of course, couples started to respond. And I heard so many different ways to cope with that new challenge. Some couples said to me, this is the very best thing that could happen to us. We are at home. We don't have to go to work, but our salary still comes to our bank account. We are surrounded with the people we love. It's the best thing that could happen. It's like vacation at home. I wish it would last for 3 years at least. And then there was another group of couples, there were more, who said, one more day. I don't know what I do, but I kill my spouse or myself. I can't take it any longer. I thought it was a romantic thing to be closed in with my spouse 24/7, but everything goes on my nerves and I can't take it anymore. And I started asking questions. What makes the difference between these two groups? And
Absolutely.
I asked my international colleagues from the States, from the UK, from Germany, is it the same in your field as well? Do you have the same observation? Yes, they said, it's the same thing. And I asked some researchers, what would they ask to see the difference? I was able to ask Sue Johnson or David Olson from Prepare and Rich, and they helped us so much to develop a questionnaire. And I asked my followers on my Facebook channel to fill out that questionnaire, to be able to see the details, what they experience in their everyday lives. And nearly 1,300 people responded. So we
Amazing.
had more than 100,000 data to evaluate.
Wow.
And we statistically evaluated all these findings, and 7 factors came out, which mostly contribute to the difference between these two groups, the growing group, who is able to grow even under these extreme circumstances, and the declining group. For example, one was they were able to share their emotions with each other, those who were able to grow. And this makes such a big difference. And since that, I test my finding with the couples whom I'm working with online in couple therapy. And I take my ruler from time to time, and I start measuring the distance between the two heads that I see.
Really?
It's so interesting. When they are sharing their thoughts with each other, when they speak by head, then I see differences like 25 centimeters, 28 or 30 centimeters. Oops, I lost one of them. Then they came back to the screen, and I take notes. I have over 300 notes by now. Then I ask them to switch the perspective and to speak by heart, to share their emotions with each other. What do they feel? I still hold my ruler in front of the monitor, of course, because the camera is above the ruler. They don't see what I'm doing. So I hold my ruler here, and I'm taking notes, and something amazing happens. The distance between them starts decreasing. They come closer and closer and closer. 18, 15, 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters, and at once I hear,
oh,
and over again. Sometimes they got stick to each other, literally, and they push each other's faces, and I can barely hear what they are saying because they push each other's mouth. It's amazing. Sharing emotions bring us closer to each other. And then I was experimenting whether it is only sharing positive emotions that bring us closer to each other, or negative emotions as well. And it doesn't matter if they are positive or negative emotions, they bring us closer to each other in the time of trouble. Because if I open up myself and I share my anxiety, my desperation, my fear, my sadness, it activates something in my spouse, and they get open to me, and they start coming closer, and they want to protect me from these feelings. It brings us closer to each other. It's just amazing.
Wow.
I wonder if that was a blessing of the pandemic in terms of that research, because had they been in a couple situation in person in front of you, I don't know, would you have been able to see that what you were able to measure? Pardon me, my throat's going here. But on the screen, it's probably easier to measure it than if they were sitting there in person. Would you have seen that? Maybe, I don't know. Have you seen that in person as well? Experienced it? I guess now you're looking for it when you're talking with couples.
The blessing of the pandemic, and I know this expression is very contradictory because many people lost their beloved ones.
No, it's
tragic. It was really something devastating for the whole world.
Indeed, yeah.
But if it already happened, then let's take out the best of it. Let's make the best use of it.
Sure.
And for the first time in history, at least in my lifetime, this was a very good occasion for studying a phenomena that the whole world suffers from. No matter where you lived, you experienced the same thing, and so many people had the same experience. And this is something that you can take under the microscope.
Mm-hmm.
You do some research in a normal time, you can have the tendency to generalize something that you see in one or two individual lives, but you don't know how it works in general for the whole population.
Exactly.
Now we had the possibility to see how a
Mhm.
bigger population responds to a certain thing. So this is how the idea at all came to my mind. And now, of course, I mean, very intentional because I know what's behind it, and I am teaching couples. When they are troubled, then let's open up. Let's share what you experience on the emotional level, not only on your cognitive level. And it brings them closer to each other. And doing couples therapy online makes it so much easier to have this little put it in front of the screen and just to take the notes and to see if it works with 80 couples out of 100. That's already something that you can grasp statistically.
Yeah, and what you said about being able to understand the essence of what makes a difference to couples, not just in Hungary, but around the world, is so vital, because we can talk about the key principles or the fundamentals that will make a difference for everybody. So you mentioned being able to share emotions as one of the things that really builds resilience with couples.
Positive or negative.
Positive or negative, just opening up about where you are emotionally. What else? Of course, we're going to promote the book, but we want to hear the 7. So what else?
Yes. The second thing I discovered was the way how they deal with their conflicts, with their disagreements. And the key point was whether or not they are able to remain calm. If they are able to keep their pulse below 100 beats per minute, then there is a very good probability that the quarrel will end up with a hug and not with, I don't want to see you for the next 2 days.
Yeah.
And this was a very special ability that those couples who went down the hill, they lost. They were more likely to fight with a pulse of 130 or something like that. And those couples who were growing, they were able to control their emotional outbursts. This is something that we all need to learn. And then I realized that this is something we know already from other fields of life. For example, my daughter is a passionate horse rider. Okay. She's got a horse, and she spends a lot of time with her horse. And I observed that all the horse riders have a very special superpower. No matter how upset they were 5 minutes ago, when they touch the horse, they are completely calm. Why?
Wow.
Because they know that the horse is an animal that reflects the emotional state of the rider. If I am upset and nervous, the horse will kick me probably or throw me down. But if I'm calm, the horse will be calm as well, and I will have a wonderful time with it. And they can switch from one emotional state to the other, like there is a button on the head, you push and and then it turned out the football players know the same thing. I don't know if you followed the European Championship now in summer. There was a picture that went out through the whole world. Cristiano Ronaldo in his game against Slovenia. There was a picture made of his pulse during the game.
Oh, really? Okay. I haven't seen that one.
It was amazing. You could see his pulse as they started the game was about 150. As they ended the match and they won, it was about 170 as they celebrated victory. In the moment he shot the penalty, his pulse was 70.
No.
In the most critical moment, he went to 70. So this proves that we are able to control our emotional state if we are intentional about it.
Mm.
Indeed. Indeed.
This is a skill that we can learn.
Wow. And I'm just thinking even of the benefits of monitoring. So I'm getting to that age and stage in life where I need to be checking on my health and looking at things like that, and my pulse rate and heart rate and blood pressure and all these things. But actually, I was doing some checks recently, and I had one of these stress tests here on the treadmill, just to understand what the maximum heart rate is and how they. I mean, if they recommend you stay at 80%, or even if you get to 100%, you know what that is. And I'm investigating now, getting a watch or some kind of monitor where I can keep an eye on it. But maybe as I'm hearing you talk, there's a benefit in having those monitors anyway.
For all couples.
For all couples, where you see your blood pressure or your heart rate going up, you can say, "Whoa, hang on, time out. Let's manage this one. I need to manage this proactively."
I love how specific you are. That if the heart rate would stay at, what was it, 100 beats. Once it starts going over 100, then you're getting into danger.
You're in danger territory. Keep it, calm it down. So that's note to self. Very, very interesting.
I learned that one from John Gottman, and after his suggestion, I even have 2 oximeters in my office. So whenever I have a couple who are fighting with blown up red heads, I say to them, okay, just hang on for a moment. I have a little device that I would like to put on your finger. And I put it to them, literally, and I ask them to show it to me. And I say, okay, go on. And then I say, 140, 150. Once I had a couple, the husband was a Hungarian champion in one of the martial arts, and he had a pulse of 150. And I said, if this goes on, it is going to be very dangerous, even for me. We need to do something. We have to intervene somehow. It was so good to see, within 3 minutes, we are able to bring it down to 8 to 70. And it makes such a big difference.
What do you tell them in that moment? How do you help them bring it down? Because we can't move on from that. We can't leave people hanging on that. How do you move down from 150 to 80? Quick tips.
We all have our best practices how to deal with our own excitement or anxiety or frustration. What works for me, for example, is to be very intentional to my breath, how I breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I observe that if I'm tensed, if I'm nervous, I tend to breathe very superficially.
Shallow,
yes, and very quickly.
Yeah.
And then I even put my hand on my stomach, which you can't see, which is a very good thing for me now. I can calm myself by intentionally breathing very deeply and slowly, so that my stomach pushes out my hand as far as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing this, the pulse rate comes down. Another thing that I observed is my voice. When I'm tense, when I'm nervous, I tend to speak much faster, much higher, on a higher tone, and louder.
Mm-hmm.
And if I realize this, I intentionally change. I come to a lower tone, I become more quiet, and I start talking slower. And by doing this, my heart rate comes down. And there is another benefit. The other part comes down as well.
Yeah.
Because you can't win a debate screaming or yelling at somebody who is just whispering, because you will miss important information and you will not hear the other.
Yeah.
So these are just some tricks that I use successfully even in my therapy sessions, because I'm a human being too, and I get influenced by the atmosphere that the couple creates. And
indeed,
somebody needs to remain calm. So I am the one who has to remain calm. So I need to have some skills to bring myself down.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. Breathing and that gentle word, speaking more carefully. Of course, not through gritted teeth, we need to be clear.
Yes, I'm not speaking like this, but...
I love it. I saw a Facebook post that you did. Part of it said, lean into kindness, not harshness, because nobody ever got in trouble being kind, but you can do a lot of damage being harsh. And I thought, wow, what a powerful, just a powerful reminder of the power of kindness, just being intentional about being kind.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. So that's we've only gotten on to the second thing that you've observed. Without a doubt, we'll be telling everybody, get those 2 books. Do you want to hold them up while we talk about it? So Stormproof Love is the book on the research findings on couple resilience. Could you just talk us through? I know you won't have time to explain them, but could you talk us through the other 5?
I'm very glad to do that, yes. The third thing was intimate bonding. If we are stressed and troubled, we tend to go more apart from each other. But meanwhile, it is so important to have this assurance that we are still okay with each other. We still love it. We still love each other. Although I need some more space right now because I need to cope with it, but I need to be assured that you are on my side. So intimate bonding. It can be a hug. It can be a kiss. It can be just in words. Maybe we are physically separated from each other, but we call each other on a video call and we look into each other's eyes. Just looking 2 minutes in each other's eyes activates the hormones of bonding.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oxytocin for women, vasopressin for men. And it stimulates the part of the brain which is responsible for bonding. And we need that not to feel completely alone in this very scary world right now.
Yeah.
The fourth thing was about finances. I grew up in a culture that wanted to convince me that money doesn't make you happy. And I was not critical with that thought. I heard it so many times, so I learned it. No matter how much money you have, you will never be happy from that. And I will not claim the opposite of it. Money will not make you happy, but you need some amount of money in order to be happy.
Yeah.
This came out in our research that those couples who had savings, they were much calmer in the times of crisis. They could use this free time now to play board games with each other, to make some new dishes that they never tried. They were open to experiment. Those couples and families who didn't have savings, they were stressed, they struggled, and there were 2 other things that came out like a side effect of being in trouble and having no savings. They consumed much more alcohol than usually, and the probability of physical violence was much higher. So having savings for at least 3 months of operating the family on the same level as it used to be, very crucial.
Some kind of cushion.
Exactly, yes. Then the fifth thing was a new discovery for me, which I haven't read in the previous researches about resilience. It was cleanliness and tidiness.
Okay.
I had a very strange experience. There was a very kind couple whom I met once in person in my office, and then I met them again online in their home, and I am not so good with names, but I'm very good with faces. But I couldn't recognize them. I was looking at my screen. I was looking at my notes that I have taken the last time. The story was the same. The names were the same. The amount and the names of the children were the same, but the faces were not the same faces like I saw last time. And I was so confused. I didn't know what is happening here. And after a while, the husband was laughing about something. And last time, as we met in person, I realized that every time he laughs, there is a micro movement on the right side of his face, which is like this. And he had that micro movement again. I said, wait a minute. It's the same couple, but something happened. Yes, he was always so shaved, well-groomed, very elegant. Now he sat there in these undershirts,
Mhm.
and he had a 5-day beard, and the wife was like this, and that's why I couldn't recognize them. Last time we made some achievements, but now they say everything goes wrong. Everything in the wrong direction, and they feel very bad. And something clicked in my mind. Maybe there is a connection between how they look like,
Mhm.
how they feel.
Hmm.
I wanted to put this to the test, and I included questions into my questionnaire like this. During lockdown, I took a shower every day.
Hmm.
And imagine, they said yes, they said no.
Hmm.
During the lockdown, I brushed my teeth.
Oh my goodness! I hope so.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes. No.
no.
Exactly.
Oh.
Wow.
I clean my desk. I clean my house. Yes,
Mhm.
no.
Mhm. I'm sure I made the bed. I didn't make the bed. Yeah. Yeah. All that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
It has so much to do with how we feel, what we
Indeed.
are surrounded with, and how do we look like, and how do we take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then there were two other factors we discovered, which are more like meta factors. These first 5 are like steps that you decide today. Tomorrow you can already exercise them, and you see the difference.
Mm.
Mhm.
But the last 2 that we discovered, the first was inspired by Sue Johnson, emotional availability,
Mm.
which is kind of the emotional atmosphere of the family.
Mm.
I'm sure you have the same experience when you visit a home and you smell in the air and you can feel tension in the air or fear in the air,
Mm.
or you can feel the scent of respect or
Mhm.
love or understanding. This makes the difference. This is not something that I decide today and tomorrow it will be changed.
Mhm.
These are many little steps I have to do to change the whole atmosphere of a
Mhm.
family life, of a
Mhm.
family dynamic. And for example, kindness is one of them. How do we talk to each other? And if I am in trouble, are you there for me?
Yeah.
Can I reach out for you? And can I count on you that my emotions will touch you and
Mm.
you respond to that somehow in
Mhm.
a positive way? And number 6 was I was really struggling with how to call this, because we discovered something very spiritual here. But I know that not all of my audience, of not all of my readers are
Mhm.
people of faith. And if I would just formulate, well, faith is a key factor, then those who are believers, they would say, I knew. Now I see it in numbers as well. Well done.
Uh,
And I will lose all the others.
Mm.
But I call it rather the hope factor.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Not all of us are religious, but we all need hope.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we discovered that those couples and families who have some kind of hope that looks beyond the limits, beyond the closed doors or the walls, they are better off than all the others. And this factor has an impact on all the previous 6. Those who have hope, they are more likely to open up emotionally toward each other. They are more likely to keep calm, even under extreme circumstances. They are more likely to bond with each other. They are more likely to be intentional with their finances. They are more likely to keep cleanliness and order around themselves
And shower every day.
and shower every day.
Okay.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And so is the hope factor. So number 7 is the hope factor. Is that hope in the relationship or hope in life? You know, of a future we'll
Good
get out
question.
of this. What's the hope that they have?
As a person of faith, I will define my hope in God, but not everybody is so so specific in that.
Mhm.
But something or somebody who is behind the closed doors,
Right.
Bigger than you.
bigger than you, exactly. Let me name just one example. My father, he is struggling with cancer for 5 years now, and he had 4 very serious surgeries, and I was there with him before he was taken into the surgery room, and I was really desperate. I was not ready to lose him yet. And he saw the fear on my face. And we were holding each other's hands, and he said to me, "Son, I see that you are afraid. But don't be afraid. I can only win." I said to him, "You need to explain this for me. What do you mean by that? I can only win. Are you aware of what is happening with you right now?" And he said, "Yes, I am. They will bring me into that room there. I will have the surgery. They will remove everything that doesn't belong there, and I will win." Okay, this is option A. But what if option B kicks in? Let's go through that as well, he said to me. If option B kicks in, my next conscious moment will be on a place where there are no hospitals,
Wow.
no surgeries, and no cancer. And I am sure that we will hold each other's hands and look in each other's eyes just like we do now. Did I win or win? So, no more questions
Wow.
then.
Exactly.
You are my champion and my hero.
Yeah. When you put it like that.
What a powerful moment to put all of life into perspective.
Yes, this is hope.
Yeah. This
When
is
you have
hope.
something or somebody to hold on, even in the most desperate moment of your life. This is hope.
This is hope. Gabor, as I thought, there is so much that we could continue talking about, but we're conscious that we've captivated your time. We've stolen you away from all the good things that you're doing for almost an hour now. Thank you so much for just pouring your heart and your passion into the conversation with us. And we can only salute you and say, keep doing an amazing work. What an inspiring conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
really loved it. As you go, Gabor, just is there one final thought that you'd like to leave with the audience as you go, and also how can they find out more about you and get some of the resources that we've spoken about?
Yes. First of all, I want to express how blessed I feel to be able to be here with you, and I think this was the very best day, the best way to spend this hour.
Oh,
I couldn't imagine any better way. So thank you so much for that.
amazing.
And, what I would highlight is just what you do as well, to be intentional, not to be governed by all the waves of life, but to take our responsibility in our hand and our power over the trajectory of our lives and our relationships, because we have so much power that we are not aware of. Let's take the steering wheel in our hands and let's not fall asleep while we are driving.
Oh, I like that.
What my message would be for all of you out there. And how you can step in contact with me. I have a webpage which is mostly in Hungarian. It's mihalecgabor.hu for Hungary. But I have also an international Facebook page, Couple Minutes. There you can find me as well. And I have some English videos on my YouTube channel as well. Most of my content is naturally in Hungarian, but I have some things in other languages as well. And feel free to contact me wherever you are. I feel so blessed to be part of this wonderful thing that you, Andrea and Jonathan, are doing. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, bless
Our
you. Thank you.
pleasure.
We're I should have said at the beginning, we are big fans of Hungary. I think is it once or twice
We've been to
Budapest
Budapest.
twice?
Budapest.
We went to this big rally. They were all shouting. It was a Hungarian football chant, which is "Ria, Ria, Hungaria." I mean, you know it very well. And on the football theme, I'm sure one day you would love to meet with who was it, Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, and just understand how he got his pulse down to, what was it, 70?
70.
How did you do that? What did you do? What was your secret there?
Yeah.
But I think just so many wonderful takeaways from this conversation here. How do we control ourselves? How do we work on all of those things to be more resilient through challenge, especially with our relationships, to get us to the other side?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yeah, well, I'll be shopping for 2 more books, and I'm sure lots of the audience will as well. There we go. Stormproof Love and No More Games. Amazing.
As we go, we should say goodbye to our audience, and thank you also for tuning in yet again for another fascinating episode. I think we're up to
52.
into the 52, 53, something like that.
Just completed a year of the podcast every week.
Loving having some really interesting guests come on and just share some insights. So keep joining in, keep tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.
Great.
Thank you.
You so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, and you want to hear more, the best thing to do is subscribe. Then you'll never miss an episode. There's a new one every Friday. You can stay connected with us on social media at The 4 Habits for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and to participate in discussions related to the show. We always love to hear from you. And of course, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review on your preferred platform to allow us to reach more listeners and help people around the globe radically transform the way they do relationships so they too can enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life.